South Korea is over. It might sound extreme, but this nation is on the edge of unraveling in several key areas: its population, economy, society, culture, and defense. The reason? A fertility crisis that has no precedent in recorded history, and we might have already passed the point of no return. By the time we'd reached the year 2060, the South Korea we recognize today could be gone. So, how did this happen? What will the collapse look like? And why is turning things around now almost out of reach? Let's dive in. The real population crisis. To maintain a stable population, a country needs a fertility rate of around 2.1 children per woman. In the 1950s, the average South Korean family had 6 children. By the 1980s, that figure had dropped below 2. Fast forward to 2023, and the number is now 0.7, to the lowest fertility rate ever documented. In Seoul, it's even worse, hovering around 0.55. That means nearly half of the women in South Korea won't have any children, and the other half might only have 1. To visualize this, imagine starting with 100 South Koreans. If the fertility rate remains at this level, those 100 people will have 36 children. Then those 36 children will go on to have just 13 kids, and then that generation will produce only 5. Within just 4 generations, the population shrinks from 100 to 5. And this isn't just theory, it's already visible. Today, for every 1-year-old child, there are 4. After decades of sub-replacement fertility, the effects are finally becoming impossible to ignore. Currently, South Korea's population is the highest it has ever been, and the same goes for its economy and workforce. But demographic decline doesn't hit like a sudden storm. It creeps in slowly and then overwhelms you all at once. And now, South Korea is about to be over. Let's take a look 35 years into the future, at the year 2060, to see where things are headed. The shape of the future. Demographers use various models to predict population change: low, medium, and high fertility scenarios. But historically, all of the United Nations medium-range forecasts for South Korea have proven too optimistic. Between 2022 and 2023, the fertility rate dropped by another 8%. So, for this forecast, we'll use the low fertility model, the most accurate one so far. Keep in mind, these are projections, but based on current data, they are highly likely. By 2060, South Korea's population will have shrunk by about 30%. That's 16 million people vanished in just 3.5 decades. It will also become the oldest society in human history. Half the population will be over 65. Fewer than 1 in 10 people will be under the age of 25. Only 1 in 100 will be a young child. Imagine waking up in a place where the playgrounds are empty, towns are quiet, and cities have more retirement homes than schools. The elderly will outnumber the youth dramatically, and a small fraction of the population will bear the weight of keeping everything running. The first major consequence, an economic breakdown. As of 2023, nearly 40% of South Koreans over 65 live in poverty, and if current trends continue, that number could look like a luxury in 2060. South Korea currently holds one of the largest public pension funds, globally around $730 billion. But this fund is expected to stop growing by the 2040s and could run out entirely by the 2050s. After that, pensions will need to come directly from the working population. Here's the problem. To support each retiree, a healthy economy needs at least 2 to 3 working individuals. But even if every person over 15 is employed in 2060, there still won't be 1 full-time worker per retiree. This imbalance means that not only will pensions become harder to sustain, but poverty among the elderly will be widespread. Many seniors will be forced to continue working or at least attempt to well into old age. But by then, the economy itself may already be in free fall. Right now, South Korea's workforce numbers around 37 million people, producing a GDP of $1.7 trillion. By 2060, the workforce will be cut in half down to 17 million. Sure, productivity per person might increase thanks to technology, but even with significant gains, the total economic output could still begin shrinking by the 2040s. This would mark the beginning of a long, irreversible recession. Some estimates push the timeline to 2050, but those rely on overly optimistic population projections that don't match current reality. the nation's innovation engine will also slow down. Most breakthroughs in science and technology are driven by people in their 20s. 240s on age group that will be dramatically smaller in the future. With fewer workers, tax revenues will plunge, and governments will be forced to make impossible choices to support a massive elderly population or keep public services afloat. Hospitals, schools, infrastructure, and social programs may be slashed or abandoned altogether. Small towns and rural areas will be left behind, with the nation retreating into just a few urban zones. But that's only half the story. The cultural and social implosion even harder to predict, but just as inevitably are the social effects. Today, 1 in 5 South Koreans lives alone. 1 in 5 also says they have no close friends or family. By 2060, this will worsen dramatically. Half of those aged 70 will have no siblings. Nearly a third will have no children. The small fraction of young people who do exist will likely be only children, lacking strong family networks. An epidemic of loneliness is all but guaranteed. Cultural identity may also begin to vanish. Back in 2000, people aged 25 to 45 made up 37% of the population. That group helped create and spread the global wave of Korean culture, K-pop, K-drama, kabuki, and Korean cuisine. By 2060, they'll represent just 16% of the population, with fewer young people to carry it forward. Many aspects of South Korean heritage and tradition may simply disappear. For the few youth remaining, life will be vastly different. Schools and universities will close due to lack of students. Entire industries might vanish. If they seek companionship or opportunity, they'll crowd into cities like Seoul or leave the country entirely. Meanwhile, rural areas and smaller cities will become ghost towns. This process has already begun in Japan, where millions of homes lie abandoned. And don't forget, South Korea is still technically at war with North Korea. Today, about 5% of young men are conscripted into the military. By 2060, that figure would need to rise to 15% just to maintain the same defense capacity, something likely unsustainable. So, can anything be done? Why? It's almost too late. Here's the harsh truth. Even if South Korea suddenly tripled its fertility rate to 2.1 and somehow maintained, that recovery would still be decades away. The current demographic structure is so unbalanced that a collapse must occur before any rebound can begin. Still, there is a spark of hope. In 2024, South Korea saw a 3% increase in births, our first positive growth in nearly a decade. But to build on this, the country must fundamentally change how it views work, family, and social life. South Korea became a wealthy, advanced society at record speed. But in doing so, it embraced extreme competition and relentless work culture. Although legal work hours cap at 52 per week, unpaid overtime is common, and proposals to raise the limit to 69 hours reflect just how intense the work environment can be. At the same time, housing is unaffordable, wages are low, and education is brutally expensive, especially if parents want their children to succeed in a hyper-competitive system. Outdated social norms only make things harder. Starting a family outside of marriage is rare. Less than 5% of babies in 2023 were born to unmarried women. Men contribute very little to household labor compared to other developed countries, leaving women to carry the burden if they want both a family and a career. Many men also feel crushed by the expectation to be the primary earner, so most people are simply opting out of having kids. In the end, the country's very culture now discourages reproduction. Final thoughts. Demographic collapse isn't something to fear in the distant future, it's already happening. And it's not just South Korea. China's fertility rate is now 1.0. Italy and Spain sit at 1.2. Germany is at 1.4. Even the US and UK are now below 1.7. And every single year, the numbers continue to fall. The truth is, we've spent so long worrying about overpopulation that we've failed to see the real crisis emerging before our eyes. Without urgent changes, the world we know may fade away, not with a bang, but a slow, quiet unraveling. That's why it's more important than ever to pay attention. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like and share it, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel, Smart Space. We're committed to bringing you meaningful, research-driven stories that matter. Your support helps us dive deep into complex topics that are shaping the future of humanity. Let's understand the world together. Stay curious, stay aware. See you in the next video.